Namaste, everyone. Christian Long, life enhancement consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this transformation Q&A Thursday. Before we begin, let us invoke. Place your hands on your heart. Be aware of the heart. Be aware of the love, the sweetness, the tenderness within the heart. Be aware of the crown. Be aware of the expansion of the crown. Be aware of the heart and the crown together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, respected and beloved teacher, Grandmaster Chogo Koksui, to his teacher, Lord Bodhisattva Mele, to Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, the Buddha of compassion and mercy, to Lord Ganesh, the remover of any and all internal and external obstacles, to Saraswati, the teacher of wisdom and intelligence, to Holy Master Count Saint Germain, the teacher of the violet flame, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, healing ministers, to our divine selves or higher souls, we humbly invoke for your divine light, love, and power, for your divine help, guidance, and protection. Thank you for blessing us with humility, with honesty towards oneself and others, with clarity and understanding to move our lives forward. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you with tremendous gratitude, respect, and love. So be it, and so it is. Thank you, thank you. All right, welcome everyone to another beautiful transformation Q&A Thursday. I am on location here in Prescott Valley, Arizona. It's been very interesting time here. I've been here for about 5 days, partly because I need to get Wi-Fi connection in order to connect with you guys. And secondly, to do my motorcycle license, which I actually just got it yesterday. Whoop, whoop. Super excited about it. It's a lifelong dream fulfilled. You might be saying, Christian, you're 41, lifelong dream. It took you that long to get your license. Many factors as to why that was not possible, or not, maybe not possible, but the will wasn't there, right? So will is very important to get what you need, want, desire in life. And if the will is strong enough, you can move mountains. And we get that will through connecting to God, connecting to the great teachers, connecting to our spiritual teacher, and connecting to the higher self. So I want to give a shout out to each and every one of you in the group for sending in the questions. Excellent questions. I have probably about 3 weeks of questions all stacked up and stored up and ready to go. And then we'll be doing the streams. So moving forward, because I'm in a constant transition of I'm going into my new Airbnb for the month of July, right? Today's July 1st, 2021. So I'll be going into an Airbnb in Phoenix, Arizona for an entire month. So yay to Wi-Fi connection, reliable, so excited. And then from August 1st to the end of August, whatever, 31st, I'm going to be in Sarasota, Florida, spending time with my son. And we're going to mix it up. We have many plans throughout the week and weekends. And then I'm going to be in Maui for 1 month of September, and then Honolulu for 1 month in October. The Wi-Fi, as I understand it, is pretty good there, but I don't know until I get there, right? And then 2 months in Puerto Rico, where I'm planning on staying in Puerto Rico, the Wi-Fi should be excellent. So what does this all mean? Most of these recordings will be exactly that. So I'm not sure how many live Q&As and live Transformation Sunday meditations I'm going to be able to do. Obviously, you guys have seen enough of the Master's work, Master Ko, Master Glenn, Master Marilag. Any of you have been part of the Master's programs. They're live, but they record some of them, and you can watch them. And surprise, you still get benefit from watching a recording. Just like several of you can't make the Q&As every single week, so you watch it, you get benefit from it. Hopefully, right? Hopefully. So yes, there is a beautiful aspect to the live component. You can ask questions in real time. You can give feedback in real time. I understand it. But because of the current dynamic of what I'm doing with my life, traveling around the country, looking for that pristine place I want to move to, and Wi-Fi, which is weird because Wi-Fi a few years ago was more predictable than it is now. But I think more people are working remotely, more people are sucking up the bandwidth. So it's just Wi-Fi has not been as predictable as it used to be. So let me turn this off real quick so you guys can hear me. Okay, so moving forward, Some will be recorded, some will be live. Most often will be recorded just because of where I'm at. Now, the cool thing is being in Phoenix, Arizona, the Wi-Fi should be good. I'm going to be catching up with a lot of things over the next couple of weeks. So the likelihood of them being live is going to be greater. Make sense? Okay. But there's just my schedule, projects that I'm working on, commitments that I've made, which you guys are part of that commitment. I'm trying to make sure everything gets done, because at the end of the day, are you here for the knowledge, the wisdom, and the energy, or are you here for it being recorded or live? You know what I mean? You're here for the I hope you're here for the knowledge, for the wisdom, the energy, and you can get that whether it's live or whether it's recorded. Make sense? Okay. So that being said, it's an interesting upcoming event. So our questions for today. Dun, dun, dun. I've been hurt by a spiritual teacher and I can't seem to let go of the anger and trauma. What should I do? This is actually a really, really common one on the spiritual path of what I've noticed. Now, for those of you who watch Netflix, you may have seen one of the documentaries that was done about Bikram Chandri, who is the founder of Bikram Yoga, which was sweeping the nation several years back, with Bikram centers popping up all around the world dealing with hot yoga, right? So they would crank up the temperature. You would have breathing exercises, you have physical exercises, and then you'd be, pouring sweat, and it was like the thing, right? And it was interesting because that school tended to attract very type A, executive entrepreneur overachievers, because they're overachievers in their personal lives and professional lives, and they go, hey, why not be an overachiever in my spiritual life? And for people that are more connected to the physical world, they're attracted to hatha yoga, which deals with the physical body, and it's like their doorway, right? It's their doorway of going to, like, a stepping to, all right, I'm mastering the physical body. Now I'm working on the emotional, like it opens the doorway to work on my emotional body. And then it opens the doorway to work on my belief systems and my calcified ideas and things about the mental plane. With what we do in pranic healing and our hatha yoga, we focus more on the top down versus the bottom up, right? So you've heard, you may have heard the expression marijuana is the gateway drug, right? That's an old advertisement from the 80s of trying to get people to stop using drugs. Didn't work out very well. It actually had the opposite effect. The DARE program, look it up. It's actually quite fascinating. It had the opposite effect of, instead of getting kids off of drugs and getting them afraid of drugs, it actually got people to use more drugs more often. So just another wonderful government program that didn't work out. So got to keep the energy clean here. Let's focus. Let's stay on point. So so we have these spiritual teachers that introduce certain concepts to us that we're attracted to. So type A people tend to be attracted to type A or willful teachers. Like, for instance, you have teachers in Sufism, which is the inner school of Islam, right? Sufism is the inner school, the inner teachings, and it's connected to the heart, connected to devotion, connected to bhakti, connected to love, right? The love aspect of God. So people that are very bhakti tend to be attracted to bhakti people or bhakti teachers or bhakti practices. A person who's type A, who wants to make it happen, right, is attracted to willful teachers that tend to be more grounded in the physical body. Does that make sense? Okay. So the question is, I've been hurt by a spiritual teacher and I can't seem to let go of the anger and trauma. What should I do? Well, you have a disciple, right? One who is disciplined, has to practice discernment on the spiritual path. So yes, you want to be conductive and receptive to the energy of your teacher, right? But you don't know if that's your Satguru, which means your permanent spiritual teacher that goes with you lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, or that particular spiritual teacher is a guide pointing you in the direction of your teacher, your inner teacher, and pointing you in the direction of your higher soul, right? So you have a permanent spiritual teacher that kind of watches over your development lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And then you have certain teachers, guides, mentors that come in and out of your life to make sure you stay on the path. Does that make sense? So if you have a spiritual teacher in your life who created a trauma within you, who made you feel not so warm and fuzzy in your life, consider that a blessing, because it taught you what not to do to other people. It also helped you neutralize some negative karma, because here's the thing that nobody likes to hear. And I remember one of the masters in pranic healing said this many, many years ago to me, and I actually wrote an article about it. I was given the permission to write an article for this big, one of the biggest spiritual blogs in the world, and they rejected it because of the 2 sentences I put in there about this teaching, and they wanted me to change it. And I said, I don't want to change it because that's the spiritual teaching, and I think it would benefit people, so I'm not going to change it. And so they never published the article. But basically, all suffering is deserved, right? All suffering is deserved. So if you have a spiritual teacher take advantage of you, and it causes you suffering, that suffering is deserved, because you cannot reap what you do not sow. So if you plant corn, you get corn. You don't get something else, right? You don't get watermelon, you don't get pineapple, you don't get bananas. Whatever it is that you're getting in your life, you deserve it, for better or for worse. So if a spiritual teacher comes into your life and hurts you and takes advantage of you and traumatizes you, you have to be grateful for the lesson or lessons that come from it. You have to forgive so you can let go and move forward. But what most people do is they become a victim, and then they accuse the spiritual teacher. They blame, they shame, they guilt, they sue, they do all of these things. So they wrap their energy up with that person for a prolonged period of time, and they drag out the healing process. Now, most people don't like to hear that, right? Because most people are conditioned to be victims. Because in our current society, you're awarded by being a victim, right? You get pity, you get acknowledgement, you get recognition, you get even monetary compensation. So it pays to be a victim. But for your inner psychology and for the energy, it's not good for you, because when you're playing the victim, your energy is distorted and small, versus I am that I am one with God, I am one with all, you expand. So it's really, really important to recognize that, look, spiritual teachers are not perfect. Even Grandmaster Choa Kuk Sui, the modern founder of pranic healing and Hatha yoga, said the teacher is still learning and growing. The teacher is not perfect. So it is what it is. So as a disciple, one who practices discipline, part of our discipline is practicing discernment, right? Right. So never taking a spiritual teacher and putting them on this super, super high pedestal that they are above me, they're better than me, blah, 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 blah. Now, do they have a level of awareness that you don't have? Most likely. Do they have a level of development that you don't have? Most likely. But you have to practice discernment. And if something doesn't feel right, you don't move forward on it. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, if a spiritual teacher gives you information that just doesn't click, it like something is off with it, then practice discernment, right? But if you have a track record with that teacher that they've told you something, you've done it, and your life has improved, and that's happened month after month, year after year, then you can start leaning more into that. You always practice discernment, but you can lean more into that and go, well, they said this, this, and this. I applied it. My life improved. So maybe this is going to be the same thing. But what people do is that they don't practice discernment. And Grandmaster Choa Kuk Sui says the karma of one who doesn't practice discernment is that they will be fooled. Right. So if you have the opportunity to practice discernment and you say, yeah, whatever, and another one, yeah, whatever, and another one, yeah, whatever, then there's going to come a point that you are going to be taken advantage of, and you're going to be hurt and injured. So I had a client, a new client, this was many years ago at this point, who was calling me up, was referred to me by another pranic healer or hatha yoga, and said, or hatha yoga practitioner, and said, I'd like to talk to you about working with you. And I go, all right, well, let's talk. And I usually do like a 15 or 20-minute consultation to get to know the other person, to see what their condition is, and then explain to them how pranic healing or hatha yoga can help them in that particular condition. And so instead of it being 20 minutes, we ended up talking for about an hour. And the biggest concern that this person had was being taken advantage of by a spiritual teacher. That was the biggest issue, right? Because there's trust issues, there's trauma around trust. And I go, yeah, well, I'm not here to take advantage of you. I encourage you to practice discernment. Go to my website, go to my YouTube channel, look at my videos, follow up with clients, through my Facebook, like I'm not here to take advantage of you. It's like, this is what I offer. These are the prices that I offer it at. And then if you want to pay it, great. If you don't, that's okay too. And be sure to refer lots of people to me once we create a miracle in your life, which is exactly what happened. So this person had been traumatized by a spiritual teacher in the past and taken advantage of. But again, all suffering is deserved. That person deserved that spiritual teacher at that time in that person's life to take advantage of them. Does that make sense? So I hope that's clear. I hope that's clear. So I have a call coming in. Sorry, guys. So let me take care of this real quick. Hold on, hold on. Hold on, guys. Okay, so, oops, I lost the questions. There we go. So again, we will have people that come into our lives that test us, that challenge us, that we're like, okay, that person's going to be my savior, that healer, that coach, that mentor, that guide, that what have you. But at the end of the day, we have to recognize that no one is perfect, and that person gives us the opportunity to grow and evolve, right? So we have to take responsibility for ourselves. It's like, okay, this person says they can do this, this, and this. Let me practice discernment. Let me validate. What's the track record of this person? Let me talk to them. Let me get understanding. Is what they're saying making sense? And then moving forward. So, for instance, in one of the recordings of this particular teacher, he was swearing and degrading the students. So, basing it on character building that we work on in Pranic Healing or Hatha Yoga, right? Loving kindness and non-injury with our thoughts, words, and actions. Is that in alignment with the virtues? When a teacher degrades and put down other students? No, it's not in alignment with the virtues. So that should be a red flag. Now, does that mean everything that teacher says and does isn't useful, isn't helpful, and garbage? You just throw it out? No, that's why you have to practice discernment. So Grandmaster Choa Kok would go to a bookstore and he would buy a book about spirituality, about finances, about whatever topic he was looking to research at the time. And he would read through the entire book and he would underline maybe 2 or 3 sentences in the whole book. And he says, here it is. This is the gem, right? So you could say, well, that person's not very developed. Why would I waste my time reading a book from an undeveloped person? Yeah, but with discernment, you can extrapolate the nugget of wisdom that person wrote and connected to at that moment in time, right? So as Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui would say, no one is all good or all bad, right? No one is all good or all bad. So I have my imperfections. I have many imperfections. I have lots and lots of things that I'm consistently working on. And as I continue to work on more things in my life, guess what? More awareness develops. And then I have more things I have to work on. Does that make sense? So never to put a teacher, a guru, a guide, a healer, a mentor on this pedestal. Look at them as clearly as you possibly can. Look at their track record. What kind of successes they produced in their lives, the lives of other people, and then maybe you can emulate them. Make sense? Okay, so I hope that helps. The takeaway in essence is, if you experience trauma with a spiritual teacher, realize that you neutralize some negative karma, forgive yourself for choosing the wrong teacher, right? Which you didn't. You chose the teacher you needed at that point in time. And then forgive the teacher so you can move forward. But wrapping yourself up in lawsuits and anger and bitterness and despair and gossip and like talking about that person or persons in a negative light is just going to destroy your life in some way, shape, or form. Because in general, spiritual teachers have big energy bodies, right? In general. They have big energy bodies. So if you're projecting negative thoughts, negative words, negative energies at that big energy body, that's going to be coming back to you energetically. So it's not a good investment of your time. Just go, all right, there was something I had to learn. There was something I had to neutralize. I'm grateful for the lesson. I forgive myself for making a mistake. I forgive the person for causing hurt, causing pain, causing trauma, and, may you be blessed and move forward. There are people that just have gone on for years and years and years and years and years, at anger towards their spiritual teachers. And I've had several spiritual teachers and guides over the course of my life that, you know what, some of them I'm like, that wasn't the best thing to listen to. But in general, very, very grateful. And the ones that I wasn't grateful for at the time, I practiced forgiveness, I extracted the lessons, and I moved forward. Right? I hope that helps. Okay, next question. What form of yoga is best? That's a pretty big question. What form of yoga is best? So again, what is yoga? Union. Union of what? Union of the little self or the incarnated soul with the higher self or higher soul. So that's called self and soul realization when they become one, right? That's a saint. A saint is when there is a high degree of oneness or merging between the incarnated soul and the higher soul. That's a saint. That means you, quote unquote, no longer have to meditate, right? The reason we meditate is to strengthen the connection from the incarnated soul to the higher soul. Then you have the higher soul becoming one with the divine spark. This is conscious, by the way. You go, wait a minute, I thought we were all one. That's the paradox of truth. We are all one, but the conscious realization of that oneness is what we're working on. So when you have oneness of the higher soul with the divine spark, that is called God realization. So when Lord Jesus says, I and my Father are one, I, as in the Atma, the higher soul, and the Father, the divine spark are one, that is God realization, right? God realization. So one of the masters in pranic healing says, our focus in this incarnation is our focus is soul realization. Soul realization, soul realization. That is our primary focus. Everything else is secondary. So there are many forms of yoga, or there are many paths to experiencing that oneness. I just happen to practice Arhatic yoga since 2004 because it resonates with me. It makes sense with me. It is very familiar to me, right? So it seems like a path that I've traveled before or have traveled many times, and I'm just a little bit further along this lifetime than I was the previous lifetime, right? But there are other people who are attracted to other forms of yoga. So for instance, there are people who are attracted to hatha yoga, physical yoga, and they don't connect with the more subtle things of the spiritual plane, the mental plane, the emotional plane. They want to feel it. They want to go into the gym, go into the yoga studio, and they want to stretch their bodies. They want to sweat. They want to breathe heavy. They want to feel like they accomplished something, right? And I'm not saying that's all hatha yogis. I'm saying that's the westernized version of hatha yoga, but that's the gateway for those people to go to the higher planes if they practice regularly. Because most people that I know who practice hatha yoga, at some point in their practice, they go, wow, I'm feeling more flexible, more agile, I'm sleeping better, this is great. And then they go, you know what, I want to do teacher training. And then when they go through teacher training, right, what starts to happen? Then they get exposed to different aspects of yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga by Patanjali, right? Who basically is like the, it's a weird way of saying it, like the grandfather of yoga. Not really, but he was a great, great teacher. So, so that opened up the doorway for them to start practicing other things. They go, huh, what about pranayama? What about meditation? What is God? When I'm doing this position physically, is there anything happening on the soul level? Like, or what is the soul? So you have to find the path that resonates with you, and then you follow that path. So there are many forms of yoga, right? Many forms of yoga. You have hatha yoga, laya yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga, bhakti yoga, tantra yoga, mantra yoga, Kriya Yoga. I mean, there are many different schools. So you have certain well-known, well-established schools that have a specialization. So Bhakti Yoga would be focusing on love, focusing on God, a relationship with God, as like you're falling in love with the divine, right? But people who are mental, it's hard for them to connect to that. So those people are more attracted to, say, something like Jnana Yoga, the yoga of understanding. But you have to be very, very mentally developed to even start that path, right? Jnana Yoga is super difficult. Even for intelligent people, it's super difficult. So there are many forms of yoga. You have to find that one that resonates with you. And then you also have to practice that school for a period of time and not practicing other schools. So it's like, okay, I'm going to do Hatha Yoga, and then I'm also going to do Bhakti Yoga, and I'm going to do them simultaneously. So then you're not really understanding what is causing what. You're introducing too many factors, right? So that's why I would recommend somebody take a path and stick with that path for a period of like maybe three to 5 years to get a deeper understanding of that school. That's why people who say, oh, Hatha Yoga isn't for me, I ask them a few questions and they haven't even been practicing, right? They haven't even been practicing. So you can't understand any school or any system until you practice it for a period of time, right? So for me, as soon as I was exposed to Hatha, actually even before I was exposed to Hatha Yoga, everything sounded very familiar and very much like this is what I had been looking for because I had done previous work connected to Hatha Yoga in previous incarnations. I know that might seem like a stretch, might seem a little bit out there. It is what it is, okay? For my own inner experiences and understandings. So what form of yoga is best? It's the form that is the form of yoga that is best is the one that gets you to practice regularly, right? That's the one that's the best. Because let's say you have the most advanced system of yoga on the planet. I don't know what that is, but let's say it's the most advanced system of yoga on the planet, right? But you never practice it. Versus a system that's not very intense, not it doesn't have a lot of like meat to it or vegetables to it. But you practice that every single day. Which one's going to be better for you? The one that you practice every day, right? The one that you practice every day. That's what's more important is the practicing. Okay. So it's like the church hopping, right? It's what is it called? FOMO, fear of missing out. It's like, okay, there's this spiritual school and I see all these people getting these, great results. I'm going to go into that school. And then after 3 or 4 months, they get bored. They're not getting the results that they want to see. They're not advancing like the other students. So then they do what? They look for another school. They look for another church. They look for another meditation practice. I don't recommend that. I recommend finding something that resonates with you, right? And then sticking with it because you're developing the virtue of constancy of aim and effort and non-laziness. So you have to develop that virtue in whatever school practice you do, no matter what. Right? So too many people are jumping around, right? Because they lack discernment. They don't understand what they're seeking. So they just like they're externally getting the validation. Wow, everyone looks amazing in that. And then they practice it for a couple months and they're like, no, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something different. And they never develop mastery. That's why I've chosen consciously Arhata Yoga as my path in this incarnation. Are there other schools that would be beneficial for my spiritual growth and development? Absolutely. Kriya Yoga would be a great example. Kriya Yoga is a great school with great teachings, right? But I know my path is Arhata Yoga. And so I'm focused on becoming masterful of that. That's it. So I can settle into that instead of saying, what's the greater, better, best, right? So the form of yoga that is best is the one that you practice consistently because all paths lead to God. All paths lead to God. Make sense? Next question. I get random panic attacks throughout the day, and they seem to go from out of nowhere. I think come from out of nowhere. What do you think this means? So panic attacks are most likely a trauma embedded in certain chakras, primarily the solar plexus, the throat, and the ajna, right? So they're like little programs. So something traumatic happened to a person as a child, as a teenager, and then it gets lodged in the chakra, and then that thing needs energy at some point in time, so it causes the chakra or chakras to fire in a sequential pattern, and then it causes the person to have panic and anxiety. And it's usually coming from a place of lack of awareness, because if the person had awareness as to where it's coming from, they wouldn't be panicky. So they're reacting versus responding. And it was interesting. I was talking with my mentor last night, and we were talking about trauma. And the earlier a trauma happens in a child's life, the longer that trauma stays with them for their life. So if you have a trauma that happens at 4 years old versus a trauma that happens at 14 years old, that trauma is more severe and going to have a deeper impact on that person's incarnation than if it happened at 14. And so it's in their system longer. It takes longer to heal. It takes more awareness, more understanding to transform that energy within that person, right? I know it sounds obvious, but if you look at it from other viewpoints, it's interesting how important it is to heal our childhood, to heal our past, so we can move forward. And that's called retroactive healing, right? Retroactive healing, or generational healing, which is another level of healing. So instead of just healing yourself, you're healing the generations above you, your parents, grandparents, great grandparents, great great grandparents, etc., as well as your children, right? If you have children. So when you're getting a panic attack, that energy is lodged primarily in the solar plexus chakra. So the solar plexus expands rapidly, and then it starts spinning erratically. So when a chakra is healthy and functioning properly, it's in the solar plexus sense, it's smaller than the heart, right? So when the heart is big and the solar plexus is slightly smaller, a person has inner peace, right? If a person has a huge solar plexus and a small heart, the person is filled with anxiety, right? Anxiousness, irritability, what have you. So when that trauma gets triggered, so there has to be a trigger in the environment, and most people are not aware of the triggers. So there has to be something in the environment that triggers the like energy of trauma within the solar plexus, and then it forces the solar plexus to become activated. It gets it really, really big, and then it spins erratically. So instead of the chakra spinning smoothly, clockwise and counterclockwise, it's like this, right? You can almost feel like that wouldn't feel good, versus a healthy chakra that's absorbing, using, and releasing prana, right? Smoothly. So a panic attack, the person has to A, have the trauma removed, B, have awareness of what's the trigger, what's triggering this anxiety. It's like, I'm sitting in my car, I'm driving down the road, and then all of a sudden I'm getting a panic attack. It's not all of a sudden. There's something triggering the energy within you. So you have to find out what it is. It's like, okay, I'm in my car. Was I in a car accident as a child? Are there certain smells that are triggering me to remember that thing? There are many, many different ways that we are triggered with trauma, right? So it's like, let's say we were abused as a child sexually, and the person who abused us touched us in a certain way prior to abusing us. Like they put their hand on our shoulder, or they put their hand on our head, or behind our head, or something like that. And then you have someone in your environment that does something similar with no malintent whatsoever, and it triggers that same pain within you. But you're not aware of it, and then 30 minutes later, you're in a panic attack. What's happening? So again, what makes the unconscious conscious is awareness. How do we get awareness? By being still and being aware, by being still and being aware, by being still and being aware. And then all of a sudden you start going, aha, that's what's happening. It's the same thing with scanning, what we do in pranic healing, sensing subtle energy. It's You have the intention of what you want to scan, and then you be still, you be aware and see what happens. So if you're scanning stress energy of somebody, you go stress energy of Susan's solar plexus chakra. So you have the intention, and then you're still and aware, and you let the energy, the information come to your palm. And how it comes to your palm tells you how much there is, how little there is, the quality of that stress energy, etc. Make sense? But if you're super willful and you're like, come on, show me, tell me, give me the information, you're being too yang. You're not in a yin receptive state. Okay. So trauma is quite fascinating. And my mentor and I are talking about possibly creating a program with working on trauma specifically, because so many people have so much trauma, and it's preventing them from moving their lives forward. Because what's the goal? Oneness. Oneness with what? Oneness with God, oneness with all. But if you have trauma that keeps getting triggered over and over and over again in your life, it gets you off of the experience of oneness. And then you identify with what? The triggers, the pain, the trauma, the fear, the anxiety, the panic attacks, and you can't move forward. Okay. So what do I think this means? I don't know. If you're having a panic attack, it's definitely trauma located in your energy body that needs to be extracted out of your energy body. And then you need to have awareness. And then most likely you need to do forgiveness on yourself, forgiveness on the person, and forgiveness on the situation. And you can even do forgiveness on something if you're not fully aware of what's happening. It gets released better if you have awareness. But let's say you don't know what's causing the fear, what's causing the panic attack. You can still practice forgiveness on whatever it is that is causing this. I forgive. I let go. If I've done anything to cause this, I'm sorry. And if anyone else has done something to me to cause this, I forgive them. I forgive them. I forgive them. I forgive them. May you go in peace. May you be healed. May you be transformed. Thank you for the lesson. So be it. I don't know what's going on there, but right? So does that make sense? So you have to remove the trauma. So you can remove the trauma by getting healing, like pranic healing. You develop awareness and understanding of the triggers around the trauma. Remove those triggers. You forgive and you move forward. Right? The formulas that we use in pranic healing or hatha yoga are very simple, and they're universal, right? So it's not like, all right, well, I have a very, very unique situation. What should I do? It's like, well, you go back to the principle, which applies to pretty much everything, right? So when you go back to the principle and you apply it, you're going to get the same result. But most people want the newest, latest, greatest, something flashy or fashionable or whatever. It's like, no, go back to forgiveness, go back to gratitude, go back to forgiveness, go back to gratitude, go back to forgiveness, go back to gratitude. No, I want something better. I want something faster. I want something more potent, more powerful. Yeah, we just gave it to you. Because the more you practice forgiveness, you become better at it, and you have greater understanding of what forgiveness is. Same thing with gratitude. But most people want the magic bullet, the magic pill, or something fast. But Christian, I have a magic bullet. It's really good with my smoothies. You get what I'm saying? Not that kind of magic bullet. Okay. So I think we covered that well enough. Okay, next question. What is a rishi? Mushrooms? Are you talking about the mushrooms? So a rishi in Hinduism is a seer, someone who sees, someone who's clairvoyant, someone who knows. So a maharishi means a great seer. So when I was studying transcendental meditation, the teacher that I learned it from, not directly, but through his organization, is Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, right? So Mahesh is his name. Maharishi, Maha, great seer, right? The great seer of Mahesh. So that basically means someone who has either a very developed forehead and or a very developed crown, right? So the forehead chakra deals with seeing the inner world and seeing the form of the inner world, right? The crown chakra is knowing without seeing anything, knowing with no form. So I remember my mentor said, this is maybe like 15 years ago when we were doing a Twin Hearts meditation in downtown Sarasota, Florida. We'd have like 15 to 20 people that would gather every single Sunday, and he would give teachings and lectures and stuff. It was beautiful because it's kind of where I got my my initial trial by fire in pranic healing. And he would say that's how pranic healing came to be developed, because in the olden days, a rishi, someone who could see energy, would see congestion within a disciple, or see congestion in someone that they're counseling or what have you, and they would just reach over and they would grab the congestion and they would just throw it into the ground, or they would do something to transmute or transform the energy, right? So it's pretty cool that, so you're talking with someone and they see a thought form, they see congestion around your solar plexus, they see congestion around your throat, and they would just reach over and remove it. It's cool, right? So when you develop your psychic faculties, your clairsentience, your clairaudience, your clairvoyance, you have the ability to go, oh, let me go in and remove that. Because here's the thing, the great teachers give you psychic abilities not to show off, not to become famous, and not to make money with. They give you psychic abilities to alleviate the suffering of other people. So once you start seeing things, hearing things, and feeling things, you need to use that to benefit other people. Otherwise, it'll be taken from you, or it will be a test for you. So you'll be given a psychic ability, and it's, okay, is this person going to use the psychic ability to help other people? Or is this person going to use psychic ability to take advantage of other people? So we're going to let out the line a little bit and see what the person does. And then the person has free will, and then they can generate good karma with that ability, or they can generate negative karma with that ability, right? And then, as I understand it, there's a stopping point at some point. It's like, okay, the person's not using their gifts very well. Yank. Okay. This is not in all cases, because truth is dynamic, and karma is multidimensional. So some people may have a psychic gift for many, many years and use it not so well. And you're like, well, why wasn't that ability taken away many, many years ago? I don't know. But as I understand it, in general, if you abuse your psychic abilities, they're taken from you. So, and they're given to you to use them for good, right? What's the point of having the ability to know the inner world, to understand people, to heal people, and not do it, right? So a rishi is someone who's a great seer, or a maharishi is someone who's a great seer. A rishi is a seer that people would go to in olden days to receive counsel, right? So they would give a tithe, they give a donation, they would do service, and then the teacher would, okay, this is what you need to do. This is, how you resolve this family conflict, this health conflict, this, because they would see energy. And so when you see energy accurately, being the key word, you can give people each person gets their own like prescription, right? So it's like how a drug is. A really good clairvoyant can make a really good drug, right? Because they would because drugs have colored energy or colored pranas within them. And so a clairvoyant would look at a person and go, okay, this person is lacking in these pranas or has excess in these pranas. And so what would help that person would be these kinds of herbs, these kinds of medications, mix them together and give the person, and it would help them. Right? That's someone who can see energy. So they could do it like this, super fast, versus having to sit down, go through medical school, do all those different things. But granted, this is not a skill that most people have. It's very, 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 very high level. Before Grandmaster Chola Koksui left his body, he was in the process of writing a book to give the breakdown of general and generic medications and foods. Like what are the pranas connected to these generic medications, general medications, and these kinds of foods. So then the person can go, oh, okay, well, I'm experiencing these symptoms and ailments, which means I'm lacking in these colored energies, or I have an excess of these colored energies, and I could take this, this, and this, and these dosages to have the effect that I need. Make sense? So that's not easy to do, and maybe that'll be revealed in pranic healing over the next 30 or 40 years. Next question. I first heard about Kabbalah because of Madonna, because Madonna was a practitioner. Is it the real deal, or is it just for celebrities? Kabbalah is the real deal. So you have Judaism, the religion of Judaism, and the inner teachings of Judaism is Kabbalah, which is extremely, extremely powerful. So Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui was a master Kabbalist. One of my teachers in pranic healing is a Kabbalist. I don't know if I would consider him a master Kabbalist, but I would consider him somebody who is extremely well studied and well practiced in Kabbalah over the past 20 years. So I'm not an expert in Kabbalah. A great book that you can read that will give you a better understanding of Kabbalah is the Spiritual Essence of Man book by Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui. The Spiritual Essence of Man book, and you'll again, the Torah is like the books of the Torah is like this big, right? If you have it on a bookshelf, it's thousands of pages long. So there's so much exoteric and esoteric teachings within it that it can be very, very difficult to extrapolate the practical information that we can use in our day-to-day lives. So the Spiritual Essence of Man book makes it kind of like simple, codified. How do I apply this into my life right now? Not how do I get a PhD in the Torah and then start applying it? Does that make sense? So the interesting thing about celebrities practicing certain things is it gets the word out about that school. So for instance, when I was practicing TM in 1999, I believe in 2000, Time Magazine had Heather Graham, who's a celebrity who I was infatuated with at the time, who was a practitioner of TM. And TM was really, really good at making it known that so-and-so celebrity is a TM practitioner, and so-and-so celebrity is a TM practitioner, and so-and-so is a celebrity of TM, a TM practitioner. And that gives some credibility to the school and draws attention to it. Just like Scientology is known as the religion of celebrities, right? They're very successful. They're very powerful within entertainment, and they get things done. So on the other level, if a celebrity is promoting a certain school, it will also have a tendency to attract people that are just lookers, tire kickers, spiritual tire kickers, church hoppers, kind of like what we're talking about before. So it's like it gives exposure to the school, to the religion, to the spiritual practice, but it also can have a lot of like programming around it that a person would have to penetrate through, because Madonna practices Kabbalah, there are people who are quote unquote serious about religion or serious about spirituality that would be repelled to study Kabbalah because somebody like Madonna is practicing it, right? Like, what does she know about religion? What does she know about spirituality? She's an entertainer. So that would, push them kind of away because they're lacking discernment. So you kind of got to research what you want to research. Do I think Madonna is a embodiment of Kabbalistic principles and teachings? No. Is she still practicing? I don't know. Has she been regularly practicing since she was exposed to Kabbalah? I don't know. Does she practice some of the things Kabbalah teaches? Yes. That's why she's in the position that she's in, because it's about materialization, right? It's about materialization. And would we all consider that Madonna's pretty good at materializing certain things? Of course, right? So just because a celebrity is practicing something doesn't mean that's a great school. And just because a celebrity is practicing something doesn't mean it's a bad school, right? So we have to practice discernment, right? It's like, I've dedicated my life to pranic healing or hatha yoga, but if some celebrity that I don't like, that person's politics, that person's viewpoints, that person's whatever, starts practicing pranic healing or hatha yoga, that isn't going to make me like them any more or less. It's just, okay, well, they're attracted to pranic healing or hatha yoga. Why? Our school is interesting because it tends to attract people that are here to heal, right? The barrier to entry is someone who has a compassionate heart who wants to alleviate the suffering of others. If you don't have a compassionate heart and you don't want to help and heal others, you're not going to be attracted to the school. You may say, hey, I heard this thing called Hatha Yoga. I'm interested in practicing that. Yeah, but the barrier to entry is you have to take healing classes before you can take the meditation classes, right? And some people don't want to dedicate that time, that money, that commitment. And under no circumstances within our school can somebody go, here's $10,000. I don't want to take the healing classes. Just give me the meditation classes. Nope, that's not happening under any circumstances because we're an inner school that's protected. So we have to follow certain guidelines, right? So yes, Kabbalah is the real deal, whether a celebrity is practicing it or not. Next question. I've heard Sedona has many vortexes. What is their purpose? That's a good question, which I'm still getting my head around. So, as some of you know, I was in Sedona for a month of June 2021, because I know when you guys are watching this. And I was staying on property that was owned by a pranic healer and a hatha yogi. And throughout the property, there are many things connected to pranic healing or hatha yoga, pictures of Master Choa, pictures of other teachers, books, CDs, etc. So a lot of energy. Also, several vortexes of energy on the property. So Sedona, Arizona, is known for having vortexes. It's like the crown chakra of the United States. So a vortex is basically a chakra that provides energy and also is a gateway to go to other dimensions and other realms. So my meditations were very, very interesting in Sedona. And it was a very challenging time for me because of lack of Wi-Fi connection, lack of cell phone connection. It was hard to keep abreast of what was going on social media. It was hard to keep up with clients and do healings. It was hard to do most anything that was connected to Wi-Fi or cell phone, primarily because of the vortexes and the energy of the grounds I was at. But meditations were very unique. So basically, there are different parts of the world that have different kinds of energies that are available, right? So throughout the United States, there are places that are really good for making money for a person. There are other parts of the United States that are really good for people to express themselves and increase their creativity. There are other parts of the United States that are very good for spiritual growth and development, right? So it depends on what you're seeking. So if you want to be a blissed out yogi, you go to Sedona. If you want to be a grounded multimillionaire, you go to New York City. Make sense? So vortexes is a relative term because there are vortexes everywhere, but some vortexes are bigger than others, and some vortexes have different qualities and different beings than others. So it's not a hard and fast rule. So you have to have understanding of what's my purpose. My purpose of going to Sedona was to do 2 months of deep healing work, energy healing with clients, and then creating a program connected to energy healing. So you would think, well, if you're doing spiritual work, crown chakra. But other things came with that I was not prepared to deal with, primarily the lack of Wi-Fi and cell phone reception, which that's why I had to leave. That's why I'm going to Phoenix, Arizona. Make sense? So vortexes are basically portals of energy. Next question. Why do the Muslims pray 5 times per day facing Mecca? I don't know. I'm not a Muslim. That's not my area of expertise. I don't know why Muslims pray 5 times a day. I have Muslim clients. The good thing about meditating multiple times per day is you're what? Strengthening your connection to your higher self, your spiritual teacher, to the great ones, and to God. That's a benefit, right? Even if it's not deep from within the heart, even if it's not super reverent and super devotional, just the minute or 2 minutes you're taking out of your day several times throughout the day to be still, be aware, and connect to God has tremendous benefits. So why is it done? I don't know. Not my area of expertise. I'm not Muslim. I was brought up Christian. I'm open to learning more, but I'm so busy working with what I've already been given with pranic healing or hatha yoga that I haven't had the time to dedicate to understanding the other teachings of the Muslim faith. But yeah, praying multiple times per day, highly beneficial, whether you're Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, doesn't matter. Next question. I've seen the Pranic Healing Traveling Altar. What is the purpose of it? So if you go to one of the Pranic Healing stores, so in the United States, it would be pranichealingusa.com, which is the East Coast, or Pranic Healing or uspranichealing.com, which is the West Coast. Those are stores that you can buy different books, CDs, posters, sprays, soaps, different things that are connected to pranic healing or hatha yoga, energetic hygiene, etc. And so there's something called a traveling altar that has pictures of Grandmaster Chogo Koksui, Lord Bodhisattva Meiling, and Lord Buddha Kuan Yin. What's the purpose of having that altar? So when you travel, you can place that altar in an elevated part in your room, your office building, wherever it is that you're traveling to, and then that brings down energy for you. And it's when you face that, it's east facing for you because of the energy of the teachers. So you could be facing north and have that up, and it's east facing energy, spiritualized energy, activating the upper chakras. So just like we talked about with the Muslim faith, of them meditating 5 times per day, when you have your traveling altar with you, it's a reminder. Be aware of the teacher, be aware of the lineage, be aware of the energy, be aware of the teacher, be aware of the lineage, be aware of the energy. And as you're continuously doing that, you're merging your consciousness with the consciousness of the great teachers who do what? Pull you up to God. So that's called guru yoga. Guru yoga, one of the most powerful forms of yoga. But if you're not a very bhakti, devotional, reverent person, it's going to be a very difficult form of yoga for you. True or not true? Right? So I just need to think about this one teacher all day long, and that's going to bring me to God. Yes. But for the mental person, they need to have deep, 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 deep understanding before they start practicing. And so they're already wasting their time versus, okay, you're a mental person. Let's talk about Jnana Yoga. Let's talk about dematerializing and deconstructing God. Ready? And they're like, yeah, I'm super jacked up and excited about that, which is solar plexus. So Guru Yoga, amazing, amazing, amazing. Guru Yoga, amazing. You can produce miracles through Guru Yoga. So carrying your traveling altar, whether you go to retreats, whether you're going in and out of hotel rooms, right? It's a great thing to carry with you. And again, any picture, poster of a great spiritual teacher, you always want elevated 12 inches above your head. So you want to have it, if you're sitting down, you want it above you on the wall. If you're standing up most of the time where you are, you want it as high as possible on the wall. And then the energy can come down. Also, when you're sleeping, you can have it above you and it's raining down spiritual energy. Now, for some people, that might be too much, right? So there's a poster in Pranic Healing with the Pranic Healing angel on it. It's been asked, hey, can I put this over, can I have the healing angel over the bed of my child? It depends on the development of the child. It could be too much energy. And there's so many stories about that. Or the Lakshmi poster. Should I put that over my bed? Well, it may affect your sleep, right? You may have insomnia because your basic chakra is always being stimulated by having that poster. And the more conscious you are aware of the energies from that poster, it affects you even more. So just having the poster in your house, it radiates energy. But if you're consciously connecting to the poster in your house, it's affecting you even more. That's something people have to realize. You become what you meditate on. You become what you meditate on. You become what you meditate on. Make sense? Super important. So that's the purpose of the Pranic Healing Traveling Altar. It's bringing energy with you from the lineage of Pranic Healing or Hatha Yoga, and then reminding yourself throughout the day to connect to that energy, connect to that energy, connect to that energy. Okay? It's like a portable church. Next question. What's been your most intense spiritual experience? You guys got a lot of nerve asking me these questions. Okay, so a couple things I want to say about this. What's your most intense spiritual experience? It depends. For those of you who remember from previous classes, we talked about the Sphinx, right? The Sphinx, which is connected to the 4 major principles of becoming a holy master: to know, to will, to dare, and to remain silent. So the last principle, remain silent, means you don't share certain things with certain people in order to protect the energy so it can grow, right? So it's kind of like you have a business idea and you share it with everybody, and the energy of the business idea isn't strong enough. So you share it with people that maybe have enviousness, they have jealousy, they don't want to see you successful. And some of this can even be subconscious. Most of it is subconscious. That destroys or negatively influences your thought form of starting a new business. So you keep it quiet. You only tell the people that need to know, and also the people that will support you in that new endeavor. And then the energy is protected, it's clean, it's strong, and it can materialize faster. Make sense? So with spiritual experiences, you have to be careful who you share your spiritual experiences with, right? So let's say you have a really deep and profound meditation and you go places, you travel, there's beautiful energies. And then you share it with your spouse, you share it with a family member, you share it with a coworker, and they look at you like you have 3 heads. And then they maybe verbally say something negative, like that's super weird, like you should get your head checked out. Or they say something mentally negative about you, and then that negatively influences the energy of your beautiful experience. So in general, you want to keep your spiritual experiences quiet. Now, if you have a mentor, you have a healer, you have a guide, you have a therapist, and even that is relative, you can share a little bit more. But basically, with your spiritual experiences, you don't want to share it to brag to somebody about it. You want to share it to have deeper understanding about that experience, right? So in general, I don't share my spiritual experiences with people who are not on the path, because they can't give me the necessary feedback I need to have deeper understanding of what that spiritual experience is, so I can go even higher, right? Does that make sense? So I do share my spiritual experiences with my mentors, with the masters in pranic healing, with people that can provide me the necessary feedback of like, aha, I didn't think of it like that. I didn't view it from that point. Okay, great. And then I have deeper understanding, and I can maybe go back and enrich that experience. So I journal my experiences on my computer. So I have like a list. So when I have a very powerful experience in meditation, when I have a very powerful experience in a healing, when I have a very powerful experience in a dream, I'll go on the next day and I'll write out as much as I can to remember it. So I can refer back to that a month later, a year later, years later. It's actually really cool going, reviewing some of these things over the years of like, aha, that's what that meant then, but I didn't have the understanding now. Oh, okay, good. Or that's what it means now. I didn't have the understanding then. So I, in general, don't share my experiences with people most of the time. It was funny because when I was younger, 15 years ago, I would share a lot of my experiences with most anybody because I was just excited. I was like, I can't believe that just happened. What's happened for you? But then I started to get a greater sense of enviousness and jealousy, and I'm sensitive, right? So I don't want to feel those energies from other people. And at the same time, I'm not sharing those experiences to make other people feel bad or to make them feel less developed, right? I'm just saying, like, wow, that's an amazing thing. So I will say this: I've had experiences in the inner world that are as physical as this world. So the inner world, the spiritual world, means what? Non-material, non-physical. But I have been affected physically by my spiritual experiences. So much so that one of them almost knocked me unconscious. As though, like, if I took a hammer and I bopped you over the head with it, to that degree, but there's no hammer there. But you explain these things to people and they think you're crazy because they don't have understanding of what's happening and why it's happening and why blah blah blah, right? The why, the understanding, the ajna. Okay. So it's pointless. In my opinion, it's pointless to share those experiences with the uninitiated because they don't get it. It's like Master Toa Kuksui says, pearls before swine. What's a swine? A person who's dominated by their lower nature, right? What are pearls? Spiritual teachings. So you don't share spiritual teachings with swine. You also don't give spiritual teachings to dogs. What are dogs? People who are loyal, people who love you, but people who are not very intelligent. That's not a put down or insult to anybody. It's simply saying there are certain people you can share spiritual teachings with, and there are certain people you cannot share spiritual teachings with. It just is what it is. So it's like I wouldn't share, yeah, I wouldn't share certain things with many people because they're not ready for it. That's all. Doesn't mean I don't care about them, doesn't mean I don't love them, doesn't mean I don't have compassion, tolerance, patience, understanding at all. It just means what's the purpose of sharing it with them? They're not listening, they're not receptive, they're not open, they don't care. It's not going to positively impact their lives. So why share it? Why talk about it? Why have a conversation about it? It's just going to get them agitated anyways, right? So that's probably as much as I'm going to share about my spiritual experiences. But I'm not saying that I'm a saint. I'm not saying that I bilocate around the planet like I'm here right now, but I'm actually somewhere else in the world. I'm not saying I'm doing those things or having those experiences, but over the years, my inner experiences have gotten more intense, more profound, and more deep. And I can say this unequivocally that this physical world is just one dimension and one plane. And if I can provide any kind of, I don't know, insight to you, if you've ever wondered about the afterlife, if you've ever feared death, any of those things, trust me, there's nothing to fear. Now, I typically don't say just trust me. I get it, but there's nothing to fear. If you've heard the term I am that I am the soul, I'm not the body, not the emotions, not the thoughts, not the mind. If you've ever like wondered or pondered that or go, am I really a being of light? Really? The answer is yes. Right? The answer is yes. You have to experience it. And then once you experience it, all the books, all the podcasts, all the contradictory energy and information about that will completely fall away. That's what's super, super funny about this world. Because much of the world is unconscious, if we go into the world to get our feedback of like, does God really exist? Is there really a soul? Do we continue after physical death? Like, well, if the majority of the planet is unconscious and asleep, how can they give you those answers? Right? How can they give you those answers? It's kind of like the Roger Bannister I believe in the 1950s, for centuries, no one had run a 4-minute mile. They said it was physiologically impossible for a human being to run a 4-minute mile. Impossible. So Roger Bannister broke the record, and then within something like a year and a half, 250 or so people around the world had broken the 4-minute mile. Right? So he demonstrated it, but everyone prior to that goes, it's impossible. There's no way. So people will say there's no such thing as enlightenment. There's no such thing as the soul. There's no such thing as God. There's no such thing as telepathy and all of these different things. No such thing. But if the majority of the world doesn't have that as their experience, but there's pockets of people that do have that as their experience, but that the majority of the world thinks those people are crazy, then what do? So you just have your inner experiences and keep your mouth shut until more people are open and receptive to that world. So I hope that helps. Let me plug this in. Ugh. Okay. And our last question. I'm familiar with the I am the soul affirmation. I'm uncomfortable with some of the wording due to my faith. Can I change some of the words? It's a very good question. So Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui developed the I am the soul affirmation probably 30 years ago at this point. And it's like a very systematic prayer. Now, you might be saying, okay, well, he says something here, and I want to change the wording. This makes me feel uncomfortable. Can I change the wording? If you change the wording, you change the energy. I'll say that again. If you change the wording, you change the energy. Also, Grandmaster Choa Kok Sui developed the prosperity meditation. That prosperity meditation is systematically designed to strengthen the prosperity energies within your system. If you change the wording, you change the energy. Because prayers and affirmations that were brought about by great spiritual teachers have a certain quality of energy connected to them. So as you say them, as you follow the prayer, you are tapping into that realm of energy, right? But as soon as you start changing the syntax, putting words in different places, deleting words, adding words, you're changing the energy of that thing. So I don't recommend it. What I do recommend is the person having an open mind, practicing discernment through experimentation, and then making their own conclusion. This affirmation makes me uncomfortable. Okay, how many times have you said it? Once. That's not enough to get feedback. Say that affirmation 3 times a day for the next 3 months and see what you notice. And if you realize that your life is improving, that you're having deeper understanding, that your spiritual life is expanding, then guess what? There's your evidence to keep going, to keep doing it. But if after 3 months you feel depleted, drained, anxious, angry, frustrated, confused, then you have your feedback. Stop doing the affirmation. Right? But what's interesting about people is that they want to change things before they've given it a shot. It's very strange to me. Right? It's like you hire a personal trainer, and the personal trainer gives you, all right, this is what you're going to do on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then you go, that's not going to work for me. You haven't even started the program. You haven't even started the routine. You go, well, Christian, I'm just practicing discernment. Based on what? If your body is unhealthy, overweight, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, poor cardio, right? Like not so good endurance. What are you basing your discernment on? Right? Now, if you're super fit and you've been an athlete and then you're just recovering from an injury, you have life experience and you can practice discernment to say, well, that routine doesn't work for me the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And these are the reasons why it doesn't work for me. Can we modify it here, here, and here? That's different, right? So it's the same thing of going to a healer, a coach, a spiritual teacher. It's like there's some lack of fulfillment in your life, and you're saying that this person has the answers, has the key to improve my fulfillment, and they maybe have a track record of success with themselves and with other people, and they give you homework and you're like, not interested. I got a better solution. Well, if you had a better solution, you would be an embodiment of that solution. So you wouldn't be reaching out to someone else. Right? So that's where humility comes in. That's where discernment comes in. That's where self-honesty comes in. That's where the willingness to transform comes in. Very, very important. So we're not saying accept something blindly and do something blindly just because someone told you to. But at the same time, you have to kind of humble yourself and go, maybe this person knows something that I don't know. I'm willing to suspend my criticism, do this assignment for the period of time assigned to me, and then I'll make my own conclusion. So if somebody says, look, you have to do this every single day for the next 5 years to get results, you're like, you know what? That's not worth it to me. Not interested. That's fine. But if somebody says, do this every day for a week or every day for 2 weeks and then make your own conclusion, and you go, no, I don't want to do that. Well, you're missing out. So I don't recommend that. So do not, this is my recommendation, do not change the words of prayers or affirmations of great teachers because it changes the energy. Do not change the words or the affirmations of great teachers or prayers or affirmations of great teachers because it changes the energy. The purpose for you is to tap into the energy. The purpose for you is to become in alignment with that energy, which pulls you back to the self. Versus you're coming from negative pride, thinking you're superior to the teacher or teachers, and actually derails you from connecting to the higher self. So if somebody says, hey, here's a prayer, and it's recommended to practice it every day for this period of time, then do it. And then get feedback. Go, wow, my life is improving. I have more inner peace. I have more mental clarity. I have this, this, and this. Working with clients for the past 17, almost 18 years now, that's a big, big part of it is overcoming the person's inner resistance to doing the thing that's necessary to improve the quality of their life. It's like being a personal trainer, right? The person hires you to get fit, healthy, in shape. They pay you, and then they don't show up for their appointments, for their personal training sessions. So they don't get the result. Same thing. The healer gives a homework assignment, practice this, and the person doesn't do it. So they don't get the result. And they go, well, this doesn't work. Nope. It does work. You're just not working it. How do we know it worked? Because it's based on universal truths, universal principles. It's been done for eons and eons and eons of time. You're not the exception to the rule. But because of pride, you're refusing to practice. Make sense? I hope I didn't beat you guys up too much. So I hope that helps. Those are our questions for this week. We'll be adding more questions coming up. You guys have been really getting after it the past week or so of throwing questions my way. I appreciate it. And I look forward to continuing to serve you as we move forward. And then we'll be doing our meditation this Sunday. So let us close. Place your hands on your heart. Be aware of your heart. Be aware of your crown. Be aware of your heart and your crown together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, respected and beloved teacher, Grandmaster Choa Kuktsui, Lord Mahaguru Jmeling, the Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, the Lord Ganesh, the Saraswati, the Holy Master Count Saint Germain, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, healing ministers, to our divine selves or higher souls. We humbly give thanks for your divine light, love, and power, for your help, guidance, and protection, for your never-ending mercy and compassion. Thank you for transforming us into better people, into better souls. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you with gratitude, respect, and love. So be it, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Perfect. All right, guys, lots of light, love, and power to you from God and my teacher, Grandmaster Choa Kuktsui, and I look forward to serving you. for a very, very long time. This is Christian Long, life enhancement consultant, wishing you a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and a beautiful life. Atma, namaste. Bye bye.